He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that continues to celebrate every single day the people who make this such a great place to live, work, and play. From right here in the coastal Mississippi studios, thank you so much for listening on 103.1, or maybe you're watching on the SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast Facebook page, or the SuperTalk Mississippi Facebook page, or the SuperTalk YouTube page, or any of your favorite podcasts. I really appreciate you tuning in. As I was telling our guest today, the feedback continues to be absolutely incredible. And I was looking at some of the engagement numbers this morning, and it's hundreds of % up, which is a real testament to our guests and the inspiration that they have been to the people who are paying attention to Coast Vue, and I really appreciate that. Hey, look, I've tried to make Coast Vue not about politics. As you know, I've said that so many times. We'll talk about politics to some extent from time to time, but the thing that I want Coast Vue to be is a show that brings people together, not tears people apart. And with the political situation being what it is in America today, it's easy to be divided. And what I'm trying to do through Coast Vue is remind us that no matter what your political affiliation might be, it's the values and the culture of coastal Mississippi that brings us together as citizens of coastal Mississippi. I had a friend of mine share a prayer with me. Her name is Rhonda Cody, and she sent it to me this morning. And it's a prayer from the Episcopal Church. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I just want to share just a piece of it, which I think applies so well. And whether you're a particularly religious person or not, the basic principles that this talks about is something I think we can all take into our hearts and think about. But what it says is this: look with compassion on the whole human family. Take away the arrogance and hatred which infect our hearts. Break down the walls that separate us. Unite us in the bonds of love, and work through our struggles and confusion to accomplish your purposes on earth, that in your good time all nations and races may serve you in harmony around your heavenly throne. I just thought that was beautiful. Again, whether you're a particularly religious person or not, there's a lot to be said for taking a deep breath, appreciating the world around us, and not getting so caught up in all the conspiracy theories, and know that our democracy is strong. And this too shall pass, and we will hopefully, as Frank Bordeaux and I talked about yesterday, have this opportunity to talk about issues again and debate policies, but then leave those debates and shake hands and give each other a hug and move on. So that's what this show is about, and I hope that you support me in that effort. Hey, listen, one of the things that we've talked about so many times on this show is that the pandemic has created enormous stress in our country, especially economically. Here in coastal Mississippi, I've been really honored to tell the stories of businesses who have done so many amazing things to adjust their businesses so that they can survive and contribute to the economy of coastal Mississippi. What I've seen is that they've been able to operate in the realities of the pandemic, and they've been willing to adjust. So what I've been able to do is tell the stories of adapting, of their amazing resilience. There's a lot of innovation that has taken place in coastal Mississippi. I think when you add all those things together, we've been able to, as a community, as a coastal Mississippi community, to minimize, to the best of our ability, the overall economic impact of the pandemic. But it's tough for so many people who operate businesses. That's just a reality. And it's also very complicated. And that is also a fact. One of the things that you do when you think about a business that's having a lot of challenges, one of their biggest needs tends to be, this would be true if business were down anyway, but when you add the fact that we've had a hurricane and the pandemic, cash becomes a really important element. I mean, cash can be the difference between making it and not making it. We're going to talk more about that in just a second. Then on top of the lingering effects of the pandemic, we had Hurricane Zeta on October the 28th. When I think about that date, October the 28th, I have to remind myself that was actually a late season storm. It's amazing that it had such an impact on coastal Mississippi. As a result, though, more businesses were interrupted. Some had physical damage. And then to add to that, some of them actually had damage to their homes. And all I have to say as we sort of look back on all that is say, wow, wow. 2020, by all measures, was super challenging was a super challenging year. Some of Hurricane Zeta's challenges, and of course, the pandemic challenges have flowed right into 2021. In terms of Hurricane Zeta, President Trump actually declared a major disaster declaration in January. It was kind of slow to come, but it happened. That created, through the Small Business Administration, physical disaster loans for those who had physical damage. And this applies to homeowners, renters, nonprofits, and businesses of all sizes. It also created an economic injury loan that applies to small businesses and most private nonprofits. If you fall into any of those categories, you really owe it to yourself to go to the SBA website. The website is sba.gov/disaster, sba.gov/disaster, and see if any of these options apply to you. This could be what you need to fill the financial gap that was created by Hurricane Zeta. You could also go to the SuperTalk Facebook page or the YouTube page or your favorite podcast and listen to my conversation with Roberto Paltadano. It's Baltodano, Paltadano. He's with the SBA. And he came on Coast Vue and kind of broke down the SBA disaster loans for all of us. And now, related to the pandemic, the Paycheck Protection Program has been reinstated. So as a result, sorely needed cash that I talked about just a few minutes ago will now be accessible for a lot of companies if they need it. The Small Business Administration reopened this really popular PPP loan program and is enabling companies to get forgivable loans for the first time and some hard-hit businesses to apply for a second time. With all this in mind, I wanted to invite an old friend, someone that I've worked with in the community for a number of years. She's been on Coast Vue before to tell her story. Kim LaRosa, she's a CPA, but she's also the president and CEO of the Renaissance Community Loan Fund. And she's going to help us break it all down. Good morning, Kim. How are you doing?
Good morning, Ricky.
Good to see you. So, well, thank you. I remember so well in those days after Katrina, after we had already formed the Gulf Coast Business Council. I remember those early days when we started talking about the need for a nonprofit on the ground here in coastal Mississippi that was focused on the housing issues. And the Renaissance Corporation was born. But why don't you kind of take people through that evolution again so they can understand and appreciate how you were born, but then what you do today.
Okay. Well, of course, we were started to help with housing because housing was such a crucial need, and employers needed employees to come back, but employees needed places to live. So that's really what we concentrated on in the beginning. And then as we shifted into 2010, 2011, we noticed that a lot of small businesses were still suffering after Katrina. Maybe they didn't apply for the SBA loans that were available. And so we started making some small loans, $25,000. And in the process, we became an SBA lender. And then we started to get bigger funds to where we could do bigger loans. And so today we're an SBA lender, community advantage lender, which allows us to do loans up to $250,000, as well as we still do our mortgages. And then we also do loans, just straight commercial loans up to about $1 million. And so we've been able to help businesses throughout the state. That's the other thing. We've grown from just working in the lower 6 counties to now we're statewide. We have offices in Tupelo, Jackson, Hattiesburg, and Gulfport is still our corporation headquarters. And we built a brand new building we moved into in January of 2019. So we moved out of the Night Nonprofit Center and allowed another nonprofit to move into our space there. And so we've come a long way. We've grown to 26 employees and really have a really good coverage of the entire state.
So you've become, I'm assuming that this title, the Community Development Financial Institution, does that apply to you guys?
Yes, we are a CDFI.
You're essentially like a community bank, right? I mean, talk more about that.
Well, we're a community loan fund because we're not a depository institution. We don't want anybody to break their relationships with their depository institutions. They need to maintain those. But for those businesses out there who might not qualify for traditional financing through a bank, we're here to help them. And then once they kind of get up and on their feet and they can qualify for traditional commercial lending, they can go to a bank, refinance out of their debt with us, and allow us to move on to help another small business. That's the reason reason it's very important that they maintain those depository relationships with those local lenders.
Yeah, so I get that. So there's really kind of you're very complimentary of the local banking community, not competitive in that way, and you may be serving segments of the community they're not able to serve. So there's a great niche for you guys, isn't there?
Yes, there really is. It's a partnership. That's what we like to tell the community banks is we're here to be a partner. We're here to try to do things that you can't do. Get these businesses up. I look at it as like a stool. Get them up on their 4-leg stool. Get them stable, and then finance us out and allow us to keep doing work with other small businesses throughout the country.
So we're coming to the end of this segment, but when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about what you guys were doing before the pandemic hit, and then how the pandemic has sort of changed the focus somewhat and created opportunities for you to actually serve more businesses, so that people can have a deeper appreciation for what the Renaissance, what is it, Loan Corporation?
Renaissance Community Loan Fund.
Community Loan Fund is all about. So we'll be back after this break with Kim LaRosa.
.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, casinoradio1063.com.
What decisions are being made by state lawmakers, and how will they affect you, your family, and community? If you listen, you'll know. SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk app, and at supertalk.fl.
Hi, I'm Billy Kinder, host of Big Billy Kinder Outdoors here. The show Saturdays at 1, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Turkeys, whitetail, Grenada Lake crappie, or Gulfport redfish. We enjoy it all, especially when you're in camp with us on SuperTalk Mississippi.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to touch frequently touched surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else. If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Kim LaRosa with us today. She's the president and CEO of the Renaissance Community Loan Fund. and an old friend. We've worked together in the community for a number of years. If you go back to when you first joined the Renaissance Corporation, Kim, which is how long ago? How long have you been there?
2007 to 13 years.
2007.
Almost 14 years.
Wow. That's amazing, really. But you've seen, I mean, like a mountain of change during that time, haven't you?
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
And I think go ahead.
The organization has just grown. We were meant to just help people get back in houses with some grant funding that the state got after Hurricane Katrina. And now we've grown to be a perpetual organization with, revenues on our own, that we don't really depend on grant funding as much anymore. We've kind of switched to, making sure that our investments are solid, whether that be mortgage lending, commercial lending, so that we can become self-sustainable 100%.
That's really amazing evolution. And it's so interesting because an organization like yours with good leadership can find the niche. Once you create the mechanism, you're going to be constantly evolving. And I would say that actually that the pandemic and the role that you guys are playing in the PPP program is just one example of that. I mean, your previously established relationship with the SBA, and then how it enables you to be such a really good community partner on something like the PPP program. Now, the PPP program is what we're talking about today, but I want to remind people what your organization was doing the day before the pandemic occurred and we even knew about the PPP program. Let's go through that a little bit. So what would a day in the life of your organization look like?
Well, we have our home purchase counselors that help people get mortgage ready. So they could be doing in-house. At that time, we were doing in-person counseling sessions, in-person, home buyer education, that type of thing. Our underwriters were underwriting, regular mortgages, which just grew exponentially last year. And then our commercial lenders were out meeting with folks who either had a business and wanted to expand it, or folks who wanted to start something from the ground up. One of the biggest success stories we have on the commercial side is Murky Waters. 3 young guys wanted to start a business, didn't have a lot of capital to put into it, scratched together, a few $1,000s. And no traditional lender would look at it. I mean, it just, it didn't make sense for a traditional lender. They're regulated where we are not as heavily regulated as they are. And so I don't think a bank examiner probably would have signed off on that. So we made them an $80,000 loan. And we have continued to grow with them to Ocean Springs, to Hattiesburg. Now they're in Bay St. Louis. Did a commissary with them. We did a food truck with them. I mean, those guys have just really worked hard over the years, and we've tried to be there for them. But again, as I mentioned earlier, they maintained their depository relationship. And so once they did need a loan, that was kind of outside of Renaissance's lending capabilities. They went to their traditional lender. And because they had all of this success, like I mentioned, the stool, they've stood that business up on the 4 solid legs of a stool, and they were able to get that loan from a traditional lender, and they're going to keep growing. And I'm sure we'll continue to do great things.
One of my favorite places to eat barbecue, I might add. And I mean, what a great concept. And they've really stood the test of time. And what a great story. It's interesting when I talk to people like John Hairston at Hancock Whitney, and we talked about how the mortgage loan crisis of 2008 it really changed banking in so many different ways. The reserve requirements are just astronomical for them. Do you have those same kind of requirements on you?
No, we don't. We don't. As a community development financial institution, we do not have those. Probably the biggest requirement we have is 60% of our loans, and that's total loans, commercial and mortgages, have to be to folks 60% area median income or less. So we have to do 60%. Now that can also be, for instance, a qualified census tract. So a low to mod income considered census tract. It can be a business or a house located in that area, but we have to qualify 60% or greater. And we stay in about the 72 to 78% range.
I remember when I was chairman of the Knight Foundation back in the days, I was publisher of the Sun Herald. We talked a lot about it, and we actually donated funds on a regular basis to organizations that were teaching life skills and helping people sort of understand financial responsibility and all of that. That sounds like what you guys are doing on the mortgage side, just really kind of rebuilding or really teaching for the first time, in some cases, building a platform for success, and so they can actually own a home. Is that essentially what you're doing?
It's a lot of what we do with our home purchase advisors. And pre-pandemic, they would actually go to businesses and do little financial fitness classes, like on balancing your checkbook, budgeting, how to budget and while still saving toward a down payment. And then they do, we have some people that come to us that have great credit. We have some people that come to us that have ruined their credit. And then we have some people who have zero credit. So they start from all aspects. And they try to get these folks, buyer ready, for the ones that are meant to be buyer ready. And for the ones that maybe might not ever make it to that point, just teaching them about money, teaching them what it means to have a savings account, for those rainy days, so that they're not going to a check cashing company or something like that, making sound financial decisions. I mean, that's a lot of what we do. And on the commercial side, we give a lot of technical assistance. Once we make you a loan on the commercial side, you still hear from us. Our commercial lenders probably check in once a month to once every 6 weeks with all of our commercial clients, just to see how business is going. Can we do anything to help you? Can we feature you on our website, feature you in social media to help you get your name out there? Where can we help you to just make your business successful?
I've had Eric Hill from the Center of Entrepreneurship at Mississippi State on the show a couple of times, and we've talked about the entrepreneur community in Mississippi and the role that Mississippi State is playing and others are playing across the state, actually. You're kind of playing a similar role. You're not an incubator in that the businesses are set up in your place, but you are helping them sort of build the same kind of awareness and business plan that will enable them not just to get the loan from you, but ultimately have a successful business that brings them to commercial banking in a much more solid way. And so it's the same kind of counseling that's going on with you guys entrepreneurially. That's got to feel really cool when someone really strikes it.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And we're not sad when our commercial loans get paid off. That's the way it's supposed to work. We work with those guys up at Mississippi State. We just recently did a minority-owned grocery store in Drew, Mississippi, which now has allowed people to be able to go, 3 miles versus, 15, 18, 20 miles, just to get some basic things that they need from a grocery store.
So cool. And then the pandemic happens and the PPP program was born. And let's talk about the first round of PPP real quick as we get near the end of the segment. Then we'll pick up the next round on the other side. But the PPP, when you look back at the first round of the Paycheck Protection Program, was it a success in terms of your role? And is that the way you look at it?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it was a success. It was challenging, because it got rolled out so quickly. SBA still needed to, fine tune some points at the same time the program was already rolled out. But we did 171 loans, about $3 million, which for a community development lender is a pretty good number. It's not near what the banks did, but we were able to help 171 businesses, whether entrepreneurs or, partnerships, whatever the case may be. And so I think it was a great success, and it helped a lot of them keep their doors open. A lot of daycare centers and just
one of the things that happens though, when you're working on the front line, one of the things that happens is you get, you've seen this in all the work you've done since you've been there, is it helps you see where the gaps still are. It helps you see where the needs still are. And for the pandemic, I don't think any of us had it in our head when the pandemic started that here we would be in 2021 and still talking about the pandemic. The truth is, we're going to be well into the summer, maybe beyond the summer before we reach herd immunity, unless, of course, they are able to get the vaccines out there faster. Because we need to get over 1 million vaccines a day to get anywhere near the mid-year. But I don't think any of us could have imagined that this thing would drag on as long as it did. And so as a result of it dragging on as long as it did, it created such significant challenges on behalf of so many businesses. And you've seen that. So you saw, as a result of the work you did in the first round of PPP, man, I bet you prayed every day that we'd get another round because people needed it big time, didn't they?
Yes, very much so. Very much. And, when we ran out of money, and had to wait for more to be appropriated to the program in the first round. And our phones were ringing off the hook because people, wanted to know, when are you going to get some more money? When are you going to get some more money? Because their businesses were hurting. And not everybody understood the program at first, and like I said, SBA was kind of changing some of the rules. And so I think you had a certain degree of people that waited till the last minute.
We saw that after Katrina. All these, what happens when the disaster occurs, that these new programs are developed in order to create, a way to fill some gaps. They're new programs. They've never been done before. So they're never smooth. It always takes a lot of gyrating to get them to work the way they're intended to work. And they discover new things along the way as well. This is Kim LaRosa. She's the president and CEO of the Renaissance Community Loan Fund. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the second round of PPP and what you need to know about that. We'll be back after the break.
Broadcasting safe and sound from the coastal Mississippi studios, this is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk 103.1.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
Be sure to go by this station's website and check out the half-off deals. Audubon Zoo tickets for just $15. That's half price. $30 zoo tickets for just $15. Again, go to this station's website or Facebook. Look for the half-off deals logo to purchase yours now.
Heart attacks and strokes don't stay home. So don't avoid the ER out of anxiety. Don't die of doubt. If you have an emergency, call 911. When seconds count, the hospital is the safest place to be.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter. Has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and all this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
There's a place to share gossip about the office party fun, and a place to share the story you tell everyone. There's a place to share a laugh about when things went wrong, and a place to share the video of you dancing to your song. There's a place to share spare change, lunch, and your time. But we could all be better at sharing how we're feeling inside. 76% of employees have struggled with at least one issue that affected their mental health. When you share, you're not alone.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen. Okay. Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
This is House Call for Health. There may be no greater medical mystery and no greater tragedy than sudden infant death syndrome. It used to be known as crib death. For no apparent reason, a presumably healthy sleeping baby dies. Medical experts don't have clear-cut answers to what causes sudden infant death, or SIDS, but now they have two risk factors: smoking and drinking during pregnancy beyond the first 3 months. A new study finds that babies whose mothers drank alcohol and smoked tobacco after the first trimester are at far greater risk of SIDS, 12 times greater. Previous studies showed a risk of smoking and drinking individually. This study says doing both drastically increases the danger. The research is sponsored by the National Institutes of Health, which is calling for greater publicity about the danger and improved screening at the very beginning of a pregnancy. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to touch frequently touched surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, "Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi" at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices. He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. We have Kim LaRosa with us today. She's the president and CEO of the Renaissance Community Loan Fund. Someone I'm really proud of because, as she pointed out, she came not long after Katrina and has really sort of been a steward of this organization as it's continued to morph to meet the needs of the community. And boy, they were well positioned during the pandemic. That's all I have to say about that. What an incredible organization to help people in the way that they're able to help them by sort of administering the PPP program. So we have another round of PPP. What does that mean to coastal businesses in Mississippi, or especially coastal Mississippi?
Well, it means for those that got a loan in the first round, they're eligible to apply in the second round. And your lender who you participated with should have your payroll records, and the payroll part is working exactly the same. The only difference is in the second round, you've also got to show a 25% decrease in revenues. That can be quarter to quarter, so quarter one of 2020 to quarter one of 2019. It can be second through fourth quarter, or it can be annual. So you can have a 25% decrease in 2020 revenue compared to 2019. So that's one difference.
Kim, let me ask you a question, and this sort of applies well to the way I set this conversation up at the beginning. That in the midst of the pandemic, we have the hurricane, and so the hurricane sort of pushed these interruptions even further, and may have put them into that past the 25% thing. And they're not asking, was it hurricane caused? They just said, if you can prove your revenue was down, it was down, right?
That's right. That's right.
That doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. And then if you didn't apply in the first round, you're eligible to apply in the second round. So even if you sat on the sidelines, or maybe you weren't quite as impacted before the program closed out in August, but then really got hit in that last quarter, maybe due to the hurricane or whatever, or just the economic impact of all of this, long-term economic impact, you are eligible to apply. So as long as you were in business by February 15th of 2020, you're eligible to apply.
The other thing they did is they expanded who's available to get it. Talk about that.
Yeah, they did. They expanded it, especially to 501c6s, which were our Chamber of Commerce. They weren't eligible last time. And so that made a big difference. Housing cooperatives weren't eligible last time. You had certain type of destination marketing that wasn't eligible that are now eligible. And the other big thing they did is they have a carve out for those in the restaurant and accommodation industries. So this time in this go round where everybody else can get 2.5 times their monthly payroll, that particular industry is eligible for 3.5 times.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really going to help them. And also businesses are with less than 300 employees, which last time it was 500, but then there's a carve out on that too for those in the restaurant and accommodation industries. They can still go up to 500 employees. So they're really trying to help our hotel, motel, restaurant, industry who have really suffered the most through this pandemic.
So let's talk about how much money is available. How does it work?
Well, this time you're eligible to apply for up to $2 million. Last time it was 10. Renaissance can do loans up to 250 because that is our limit as a community advantage lender. But it's going to be based on your payroll, 2.5 months times your payroll, 3.5 times in those other industries. And it's really a pretty straightforward calculation. You have to report the decrease in revenues. You don't have to prove it until you go for the forgivable portion of it. So it's up to whatever that is. I mean, we've done some as small as $1,700, and then we've done $250,000, applications.
So what has to happen in order for it to be forgivable?
Okay, 60% of your loan has to go towards payroll. There was also an expansion for the 40% that's remaining this time. Now you can deduct anything that you've had to spend in order to meet federal, state, or local or health department regulations because of the pandemic. So for instance, for those businesses that had to buy, we see a lot of the clear plexiglass in stores now. I know you see a lot of it in boutiques and nail salons and things like that. The owner will be able to deduct the cost of that. They can deduct masks, that type of thing. And then those, we didn't have this particular issue here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast or in the state, but those businesses that suffered because of the riots and things like that, anything not covered by insurance, they're going to be able to deduct. And the other thing is perishable goods. So let's say one of our restaurants lost a lot of inventory due to having to close during the pandemic or maybe during the hurricane. Perishable goods are now going to be able to go towards that 40%.
Yeah, I wondered why property damage was on there, and I was going to ask you specifically what would hurricane damage uncovered by insurance be part of that, but I'm hearing you say that's not the case.
It's specifically the language is the riots.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've seen. But it's a good question. I mean, we could still ask.
Well, I just wonder about it, just because, here we are in the midst of the pandemic and then a hurricane hits. And I think a lot of people were just, I think they might have known it was there. We've talked about it in some detail here on the show, but the insurance deductible that applied created a pretty big gap for a lot of people. And I'm just curious, is there a possibility they could somehow pigeonhole that in? That would really help a lot of businesses for sure.
Yes.
So what are some of the other intricacies of this PPP program that you want people to know about?
Well, one of the things is when we put the applications in the first round to the SBA, it's called E-Tran, to their system, we would almost get an immediate loan number, which meant that then we could go to closing documents and process payments. This time, the SBA has put us on a 1 to 5 day delay. And so when the application goes into the SBA system, we're not going to get an automatic loan number. So it's going to be a little bit more delayed this time, but still shouldn't be more than that 1 to 5 days. And they could change that too. I think one of the other big things is that, that carve out for our restaurants and our accommodation industries. They really need to go back and revisit that, because that's going to make a big difference in the amount of PPP loan they're going to be eligible for.
You heard me mention at the beginning. Yeah, go ahead.
There is a deadline. This has got a March 31st deadline or until it runs out of money. So folks don't need to wait around. They need to go ahead and get their applications in.
Yeah, that also happens to be the deadline on the disaster funds as well through the SBA. So those are common. That's literally what I was about to ask you about, and that is how many of the people who are applying for PPP that you found also applying for the disaster relief loans?
We haven't started gathering that yet, but before this PPP round got rolled out, we were encouraging all of our clients, our commercial clients, to apply for some of the SBA funding once we got the declaration. So I have to think that it's probably a pretty high number.
Yeah, let's hope that they know about it. I mean, it came so fast, and people, well, first of all, I say it came fast. It was slow to come, the disaster declaration, but it came and went, and I hope that most businesses learned about it. They probably have learned about it through their financial institutions. Hopefully they've learned about it through this show and other media. But, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the combination of the two programs, the PPP program and the SBA disaster relief loan, together really could create a very significant, cash infusion of money to help businesses survive. I mean, that's really what we're focused on right now, just helping them fill the gaps so we can get on the other side of this. And you see that determination every day, don't you?
Yes, we definitely do. We had folks during the pandemic, during the first round, if you had an SBA micro loan with us or community advantage loan, your payments were actually turned off. Well, we saw they actually had deferments. We saw very few of our clients take advantage of that either their interest was turned off, but they continued to make their payment. So their full payment went to principal, so they were determined, because that was a great way to pay their principal down during that time frame when the interest wasn't accruing. So everybody, the day that their deferment stopped, we haven't had anybody that hasn't come back and been making payments.
Wow, good. That's excellent. This is Kim LaRosa. She's the president and CEO of the Renaissance Community Loan Fund. Kim, tell people how to get in touch with you guys.
Well, this time we also automated our process. Last time we were manual because it got rolled out so quickly. So if they go to our website, www.rclfms.com, we have a portal right at the top. And all they have to do is click on that portal and it'll take them and they can start setting up their application and it'll process through.
Say the name of the website again, please.
It is www.rclfms.com.
Good. Kim, it's been a delight to visit with you today, and I really appreciate your continued leadership. It's amazing that so much time has gone by, that we celebrated the 15th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, and then we get Zeta, which is probably the most significant storm since Hurricane Katrina, right in the middle of the pandemic. But people like you are still on the ground swinging every day, trying to help the community fill the gaps. And I appreciate your leadership.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Ricky.
It's been a real pleasure. When we come back, I'm going to share with you some technology trends. I'm going to include our friend Cal Curley in the conversation. So some fascinating trends that I mentioned yesterday. We'll be back after this break.
Coast Vue on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by Allen Toyota on I-10 exit 38 Gulfport. See all of the incredible inventory at allentoyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
SuperTalk. Nobody keeps Mississippi informed like we do. With 12 stations covering all 82 counties. If it happens in your state, we're on top of it. The news, the weather, the sports, and the talk that's important to you. The issues that matter to you, your family, and your bank account. It's all right here. And when you're away from home, depend on the SuperTalk app and supertalk.fm to stay in the know. We're proud to serve our fellow Mississippians. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. Norbert, Elvis.
And I want to tell you about Presley. He had two different voices. He would sit and talk to me in a very calm, low voice. And we were at Stack's one night, and we were having lunch. We always had lunch at midnight because he was nocturnal. We sat there and we have our sandwiches, and at 1 o'clock, he looked up. He said, "Hey, Pot, come on, it's time for me to go be Elvis." And he stood up, and a much deeper voice, he put on his macho voice. "Hey, fellas, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get cracking, okay?"
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, Amazon Alexa, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
It's me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Everyone knows the only thing better than pizza is free pizza, and right now, buy a $10 gift certificate to CC's Pizza for only $5. It's like buying a pizza and getting a pizza for free. Go to our station's website or Facebook. Look for the Half Off Deals logo to purchase this amazing deal right now.
We give HPV vaccine to children at 11 or 12 years of age. I have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and I've given the vaccine to all of them.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. I really enjoyed that conversation with Kim LaRosa. Her leadership of her organization has been just terrific. And, you know, we're lucky, as I've said, probably just about every day. We have so many people in coastal Mississippi that are working every single day to make this such a great place to live. I want to share with you something I mentioned yesterday. This has to do with some technology trends. But one of the things I said after Hurricane, I've talked about this often, that after Hurricane Katrina, the trends that were in place before Katrina were just kind of sped up. You know, they could have been economic trends. They could have been, you know, trends in the housing community. They could have been, you know, trends in healthcare. But the trends that were in place before the disaster were sped up by the disaster. And so on this show, we've talked about often about how this was definitely going to be the case during the pandemic, especially as it relates to technology. And what I want to do is ask my buddy Kyle to come into the conversation. And first of all, let's just say good morning, buddy. How are you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. You know, it's interesting as I continue to learn more about the radio industry. I have several newsletters that pop up in my inbox every morning. And one of the particular newsletter has been covering the CES conference, which is Consumer Experience Show, I think is what it is. It's a Consumer Technology Association's, Consumer Electronics Show. And what it is, it's literally a global show that rolls out new technology. Of course, this year it was done virtually. And one of the things that share with some metrics, Kyle, that I'm seeing these for the first time, and I want to share each of them with you and see what, just kind of get your reaction to it. The first one has to do with e-commerce. It said that the increase in e-commerce deliveries, we got in 8 weeks what previously it took us 10 years to do. In 8 weeks of just time, the volume was as much as the previous 10 years. That's unbelievable. But it's not surprising, is it?
No, it's really not. That's almost one of those things like, why haven't we done this sooner?
I hear you. You might say that about each one of these, actually.
Yeah.
That's why we say there's no going back. Once these trends are in place, there's really no coming back. And the way that's going to revolutionize retailing is pretty significant. The next one has to do with telemedicine. And what it did is it tracked the increase in virtual appointments. Okay, so in 15 days, telemedicine virtual appointments increased 10 times in 15 days. And what you may remember, one of the things they did is there was some kind of federal thing in the way that wouldn't allow them to do virtual appointments the way they needed to be able to do them. As soon as they relieved that, the number of appointments just skyrocketed. You've seen that in your own family, haven't you?
I've seen that, experienced that last week. What would take a normal 3-hour process, honest to God, 3-hour process to drive to the appointment, sit and wait on the appointment, and then to get home, turned into a 15-minute ordeal, telemed on the phone from home. I'm 100% behind this initiative.
And more people are using their doctors through their insurance programs vis-a-vis telemedicine. It's just really incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, the other one has to do with streaming video. And this one is like incredible. Okay, it took Disney 5 months to hit 50 million subscribers. It took Netflix 7 years. Think of 7 years to get to 50 million subscribers. It took Disney only 5 months.
Yep.
I mean, we've seen an explosion of streaming video. You saw that coming, didn't you?
I really did. Man, again, why didn't we do this sooner? There was a lot of early Netflix adopters, like, where have y'all been? And now everybody's jumped on board. I love it. I don't like the whole, the theory behind some of the new movies that go straight to streaming. I mean, I kind of like it, but I don't. I'm for the movie theater experience, but there's some movies that could go straight to streaming and bypass the theater experience altogether.
Well, I agree. And some of the major production companies are saying they're not going to go to theaters anymore. They're going to go straight to streaming. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I personally like a hot, box of popcorn and Diet Coke and the sound and take it all in. I love that experience.
Yeah. Parts of the movie going experience you just can't replace, really.
Yeah, no doubt. And the last trend is remote learning. This was incredible. Students who went to online learning, 250 million students in just 2 weeks.
That is another one of those things. It's kind of almost like the doctor's appointment, telemedicine. If you can do it and technology allows it, why not? Why do you have to actually sit in that class?
Hey, Kyle, the other thing that they noted, and of course, this is a technology conference, that diversity and inclusion is a worldwide trend. It's not just a United States trend, and that brands are going to start embodying into their roles in society a sense of purpose. And sort of like Coast Vue has a sense of purpose. We want to celebrate the people who make coastal Mississippi a better place to live, work, and play, and we want to bring people together. Anyway, those are some interesting trends. Thanks for chiming in, buddy.
Yep, not a problem. I really do like these trends. I think we're a long time coming for it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Have a great day.
Broadcasting safe and sound from the coastal Mississippi studios, this is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk 103.1.